By the way, before I start, how many of you know the doll that comes from for a specific movie? Okay. How many of you has seen more than one movie of this horrific horror series? You guys need to talk to Przemek. He's a psychologist. You have issues. All right, let's play a game. I'm going to show you a picture of a city, and I want you to guess inside your own heads if this city comes from Africa, or it's a city that maybe comes from States, Europe, or Middle East. This is pretty obvious, isn't it? It actually is Johannesburg in South Africa. This is also pretty obvious because there's a couple of skyscrapers, a couple of greenery. This is, of course, Chicago in USA. This is going to be very easy because there's no city in Africa that has so many lights in the evening. Oh, that's Nairobi in Kenya. This is probably Monte Carlo, right? No, it's Cape Town in South Africa. That must be the new railway station in New York. No, it's Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, country that we all know that is very rich and there are no hungry kids, right? This is actually Lagos in Nigeria. Well, okay, maybe I have gone too far here because that's how it looks right now. We stole the land from the ocean because every grain of sand was brought from the inside of the country. They blew up a whole mountain and they brought all the sand there. And in 5 years from now, it's going to look like this, just like in Dubai. And I know what some of you, okay, there's one building already there. It takes 3 months to build such a building because that's how Chinese people build buildings. They build it fast and the quality is still there. I know what some of you may think. He's trying to make us believe that there are rich people in Africa, but there have been always rich people in Africa. And there are always, will be poor people in Africa. And that is true because that's a problem in the whole world. There's a wealth gap problem in South Africa, in the States, in Mexico, in Brazil, India, you get the point. And there's, of course, are many challenges about infrastructure. If you want to have a big house in Nigeria, you're going to have this piece of furniture. It's called a generator, and it costs you between $2,000 to $3,000 per month to put diesel there, because you cannot count on the electricity coming from the grid, because there's just not enough electricity from the grid. We use more power in Africa than we can produce. And of course, like in every developing country, there's a problem with corruption. We had huge problems with corruption, and we still have. And now we know that even in countries like China, South Korea, and Japan, there are huge scandals related to corruption. What I'm trying to say here, the point I'm trying to make is that we are always driven by stereotypes, because that's how our mind works. And also that's what media wants us to think. And yes, of course, this happens a lot in Africa, and that's still an issue. Just like poverty and people living below poverty line, it's an issue still in the United States, and it's becoming a bigger issue. Not sure if you know, but the wealth gap in the United States is actually bigger than in South Africa. But the thing is, we have seen these pictures way too many times, and we don't see the other picture. And just like when you talk to someone in the States or in Western Europe, when you talk to some ignorance and you tell them that you're from Poland, they will always say, you probably are very good in stealing cars. Or that's what they think about Poland, or that. And yes, that is a big part of history of Poland, and that is a big part, the one on the right, of what Poland is right now. But this is not the full picture. So because you already know the picture from here, I'm going to focus on a little bit better picture. There's 12 years difference between those two, the Economist covers. The one on the left was in the year 2000, that was a summary of 40 years of Africa's so-called independence. The continent was dealing with wars, tribal conflicts, poverty, genocide, hungry people. 12 years ago, the cover says, Africa rising. 6 out of 10 countries, most fastest growing economies in the world, come from Africa. What has changed? Well, the answer is business. They're making more money not because gold price is going up that they extract from the mountain. They're growing not because the oil price is going back because that they extract from the mountain. But the economies are getting bigger and people have more money because business is growing. And that's something I want to mention here today. In order for economy to grow, we need two things. You need a lot of people and you need people that have money. So this is what United Nations predicts about the population of the world. The red line is Africa, the green line is Asia, and the rest is North America, Latin America, and Europe. The picture is pretty clear, isn't it? By 2100, 80% of the world population, either we like it or not, will live in Africa and in Asia. 5 countries out of top 10 countries in the world will be in Africa. India, Nigeria, and China will have more people living in their countries than in the United States. This is a lot of customers that may want to buy your stuff. But a lot of population is not enough. You need to have people that have money to spend. So the whole point is about growing middle class. Who is a middle class representative? Someone that has a day job, someone that makes enough money from its day job to pay for food, to pay for rent, to send his kids to school, maybe once per week go to the cinema, and once per year travel to some nice destination. That's enough. And the middle class is doubling right now in Africa. Currently, 30% of people living in Africa are already middle class representatives. That's more than in India. In the next 15 years, it's going to be twice that much. A lot of people that can buy your stuff. Okay, what do we do with that piece of information? Before I get to that, one more source of data. By year 2025, this is 8 years from now, 45% of Africans will live in cities. Africa will become the most urbanized continent in the world. There will be more people by percentage living in cities than in states and Europe. Of course, they want to move to the cities because they can find a job easier. It's easier for them to rent a house with power and water. It's closer to the shopping mall. It's closer to the cinema. It's closer to the school. All those basic stuff we people from Europe many times take for granted. People in Africa love technology. When you have access to the internet, if you can afford a smartphone, and smartphones are really cheap because they come from China, they're as good as iPhones and they cost 1/10 of the price. As soon as they can afford it, they'll use it on a daily basis. If you use a smartphone and you use internet on your smartphone, that means you're a potential customer everywhere you go because you are always online. Nigeria is the world leader. 81% of people use internet on their smartphone. Fun fact, Poland is number 7 in the world. The only strictly European country that uses that much internet on the phones. You see, Nigeria is better than us. Buy more phones. Mobile banking users. If you have a bank account in Africa, you're going to use it on your mobile. You're not going to have a card. You're not going to go to a bank. You're going to do everything on a mobile. Banking system in Africa is way more developed than in Poland. If I make a transfer from my bank to my friend's bank, and there are 2 different banks, if I send the money and if in 1 minute he's not going to receive the money, I'm going to call everyone that I know in the bank and I'm going to ask, where's my money? There's no such thing as incoming sessions, outgoing sessions, elixir, all that crap. No, money has to arrive from one place to another one under a minute. Now, this looks like a poster picture, but this picture I took in a company headquartered in Lagos called Andela. Andela is a software company, one of the biggest ones in this part of the region. They have more than 1,000 developers that produces software for Fortune top 500 companies in the States. And that company, for example, has raised money from Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook. He invested $24 million, if I remember, last year. What they believe, they don't even need to believe, they know that as a fact, is that the talent is distributed evenly in the world. There are people every day born with music talents, mathematics talents, development talents in Latin America, in Europe, in Africa, in Russia. The problem is the access to opportunities that you can take advantage from your talent is not distributed evenly. So they hire the developers only in Africa, and they invest in 5 years of training them. They have vetted 70,000 developers in the last 3 years, and the acceptance rate is 0.7%. They hire the top of the top of the top. People in Africa are many times smarter than us, and they're many times working way harder than us. Why? I'm going to tell about that in a second. Another point I'm trying to make is that you shouldn't believe these type of ads. Only for $18 per month that you can send to us, you can save that particular kid. No, you won't save that kid because there's a huge industry behind these advertisements. And out of those $18 that you're going to send, maybe $1 will be delivered to that particular kid in Africa, if he's still alive. Thank you for that. So how can you do that then? Well, first of all, go to Africa and be a tourist. Do you know that statistically, you are less likely to be a victim of a crime in a tourist destination in Africa than in Spain? If you go to Africa, buy fruits from that lady. Yes, maybe she doesn't have access to running water and she brings water in a bucket every morning to clean the bananas. But these fruits are still healthier than the one you're buying in the supermarket with pesticides and chemicals. If you're going as a tourist to Africa, take this driver as your driver. Allow him to make his living on being your taxi driver, because he's gonna save his money, and in a couple months he's gonna buy another car like this, he's gonna hire his brother, and then another car he's gonna hire his cousin, and in a couple years from now you're gonna come back and he's gonna have a logistics company. If you go to Nigeria, buy some local outfit from local tailors, just like my mom and my brother did. Sorry guys for posting that picture. Or you can build a business there and really make a tangible change to that particular country. Because when you open a restaurant in Nigeria or in Kenya or in Gambia, you're not opening restaurant number 100 and you have to compete with already 99 that are existing there. When you open a website, you're not just opening another website or another mobile application. You're actually making tangible changes to the way people buy, spend money, and make money. Couple of nice histories. Sorry. That gentleman on the left in the white t-shirt, his name is Samuel, one of the smartest guys I've ever worked with. I hired him just after he graduated from his Lagos Polytechnic. He worked with me for 3 years, saved enough money, went to the United States. Now he's studying and finishing his MBA. He went together there with his girlfriend that he met in my company, that girl in the middle in the violet shirt. The girl on the right in the blue dress, her name is Stephanie. She has saved her money to build music equipment, and currently she's one of the most famous Nigerian female rappers. And the guy in the back on the right, his name is Taribo. He used to be my driver, because when I went to Nigeria for the first time, I didn't know the city. I needed a guide. And not sure if you know a disease called the Pharaoh disease, where you have to go to the bathroom 5 minutes after every time you eat anything. So this hit me. And I was using Taribo to go from hotel to hotel and signing deals with them. We were running a website where you could book hotels online. So we had to make deals with hotels. And one day I couldn't go because I just was stuck to the toilet. And then he said, boss, I can do it for you. I'm like, okay, I have nothing to lose. Go and sign the deal for me. And he did. He went and he signed. And the next day he went again and he signed. And the next day he went again and he obviously signed. 2 years forward, he's running a team of 20 sales guys and running it for me. Now, I don't want to sound not humble enough, but if it wasn't for this type of opportunity, he wouldn't have enough similar opportunities like that. And the cool thing is that when you run a business in a new place, it doesn't make you a patriot to live in the country that you're patriotic about. It makes you a patriot when you're showing good values to the people on the outside. And there's no better satisfaction than giving whatever you can to those people you work with and building a value within a new country. And let me tell you this thing. There will be no hungry kid in those families. Thank you very much for your attention.